It's always fun when two high profile people get into a little bit of a beef. So I'm talking about Anthony Scaramucci versus an MSNBC host. This must be somebody new because I haven't watched MSNBC in like a billion years for obvious reasons. But nonetheless, Tiffany Cross is going to take on Anthony Scaramucci, and it is both fun and hilarious.
Anthony, I do want to start with you here because honestly, for all intents and purposes, if we look at a collection of sound bites from you, you were radicalized. And I want to hear how you became unradicalized. Let's start with some old sound from you.
That's another hack politician.
You call Donald Trump a hack?
He's a hack politician. I'll tell you who he's going to be president of. You can tell Donald I said this, the Queens County Bullies Association.
I think he's got some of the best political instincts in the world and perhaps in history. But I love the president, and I'm very, very loyal to the president. And I love the mission that the president has. He's genuinely a wonderful human being.
All right, so before she dives into it, I think she's obviously making the case for hypocrisy. Anthony Scaramucci was like famously in the Trump administration for like 2.5 seconds. You know, that's basically we have a measurement of time, a unit of time called a Scaramucci, which is a very, very small measurement of time. That's how long he lasted within the Trump administration. And so he was kicked out unceremoniously. And wouldn't you know it, he then turned on the president and started, you know, talking shit against him, which is always fun. But you kind of see where this is going. And so Cross, she is right to point out that, you know, hypocrisy and his former positions versus his current positions. And again, I've said before, I think Scaramucci is riding the wave. I think he was riding the Trump wave. And then I think once it became not profitable for him, he jumped off the Trump wave. And because, and he's not the first one, he's not the only one, and he won't be the last one. And now that, you know, Donald Trump's over and that he's no longer president anymore, pretty much everybody has done this. I'm just waiting for Rudy Giuliani to do it. But anyway, let's get to the rest of that clip here.
So, Anthony, we just saw that. I have not been quiet about the fact that I don't want to be a part of this effort to sanitize people who rocked really hard with Trump and then
Totally
thought
fair.
better of it later. But because, as we just saw, you appear to have been radicalized by the MAGA party, I'm curious what's your advice on how we unradicalize people who have drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak?
So Tiffany, first of all, I wasn't radicalized. I was a standard garden variety Republican, and many standard.
All right, so he's actually right about that, because a standard garden variety Republican is now your Trump, your Trumpist. That's what the Republican Party is. They're the party of Trump.
Garden variety Republicans got trapped in the same dilemma that I was in, so was not radicalized. And I think you're making a mistake.
He made money off of it, though.
About the whole sanitization thing, because you've got 74 million people that voted for Mr. Trump, and not all of them are hardcore MAGA people. There's probably
But they still think that voting for Donald Trump was better than voting for a Democrat, voting for Joe Biden. Take what you will from that. That really tells you about something, like where many of them, and here's the thing about that, that's kind of wrong, right? Yeah, you had 74 million people. You had increased turnout for Trump. More Republicans voted for Trump this time than they did back in 2016. And so that's got to make you think, like, they liked what he was doing. More people voted for him. And so, I mean, maybe it's a result of turnout or something like that, because turnout is increased across the board. And I mean, it just really kind of tells you something about the Republican Party, how these people will, of course, turn out for this guy who is not a good person, was not a good person, did a tremendous harm to the country as a result of like COVID and shit. And they still turned out for him. And now that he's not in power, they're of course going to turn away from him, people like Scaramucci.
Probably 40 or 50 million people that we need to create an off-ramp for, so that we can unite and heal the country. So if you go in that direction with that high sanctimony and that high moral righteousness, I think it's going to be very damaging for the country going forward.
No, it's just factual.
Going to keep the country.
I don't know if it's high sanctimony or high moral righteousness. Fair enough, but I don't know if it's high sanctimony or high moral righteousness
right now that
well, let me say, Anthony.
All right, you're gonna talk over me. Go ahead.
Well, let me just say, I think
you're not
that
gonna let me
Trump.
speak, but go ahead.
No, you'll have an opportunity to speak. I know you love the camera. I think that there is.
Y'all love the camera. You love the camera. Scaramucci loves the camera. I love the camera. We're all on camera. We all love the camera. What kind of talking point is that? That's ridiculous. I know. I don't know how that's a gotcha or like haha, you like the camera, Mr. Scaramucci. Yeah, well, so do you. You're on TV.
Is a lot of people, there's this
kind of funny.
This desire to want to sanitize people who rocked with this president, but quite truthfully, we always knew who Donald Trump was. He was very clear about that on the campaign trail.
So true.
So this is someone that you still opted to align yourself with. You still opted to go out there and advocate for him. You still opted to join the administration. So if you weren't radicalized, were you an opportunist? And if so, what happens when the next opportunity presents itself?
Oh, those are devastating questions. Absolutely, like a lot of credit for Tiffany right there. Those are excellent questions. Those are fucking devastating. Unless you say you weren't radicalized, but if you're not radicalized, then were you just an opportunist? Bingo! Big fat fucking bingo right there. Yes, he was radicalized. Of course. His response is great.
So, I got something wrong about Mr. Trump. I thought at age 70 that he was going to be a transformative politician and a post-partisan politician. I got that wrong. As I tell my kids, if you get something wrong, you admit you're wrong. It's okay to get something wrong.
And to be fair, he has admitted that he is wrong. So fair enough.
It's not okay to stay wrong. 2 years ago, I said there's something wrong with the guy. And for 24 months, I worked very hard on making sure that he didn't get reelected. I put a lot of money up in that, a lot of effort.
True.
I like the camera almost as much as you like the camera. And I went out and did tremendous amounts of media advocacy against him. And we built a coalition that defeated him. So I'm not exactly sure where you're coming from on this. What do you want to do with these people, the 74 million people that voted for Mr. Trump? Would you like to hive them off the country and ship them out into the Atlantic Ocean? What would you like to do with
Okay. Oh, look, I get what he's saying. And he makes a pretty good point. Like, yeah, we got to do something. Like 74 million people voted for Trump. We can't just get rid of them. We've got to do something with these people. And I've made the similar point on my show plenty of times. Like, what do we do? How do we get these people to not support somebody who's racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, or at least just accepts facts? I mean, again, I have a feeling like a lot of people saw Joe Biden the way that a lot of leftists saw Hillary Clinton, right? And by that, I mean, the ones who voted for her, that she is a lesser of two evils. But how do you look at someone like Donald Trump as the lesser of the two evils, as opposed to being the evil, which is was kind of what it is to me. He seems and it's not because he's like Republican. Yeah, Republican policies are fucking dog shit. And I've been railing against them for my entire career because they do such harm to the country. But at the same time, they look at Joe Biden, who is a very, very center politician who has right-leaning inclinations and sometimes can also be pushed left on certain issues as well, only slightly to the left, not nearly as left as we want to see. Like, you can maybe push him into the standard sort of liberal, like, oh, let's do a little bit of change, nothing hugely transformational, but like, hey, let's let transgender people back to the military. Okay, that's good. Let's protect trans rights, and I'm totally, for trans rights. I think that's good. Undoing a lot of Donald Trump's damage, it's good. Getting us back in the Paris Climate Agreement, it's really good. But like, still, it's not going to be, as he said before, and he really was being incredibly honest when he said, nothing will fundamentally change. Well, it's true. We're not overthrowing capitalism. We're not installing, a parliamentary system. We're not going to become social democracy. we're not taking stock dem policies. We're not going to change Wall Street. We're not going to fundamentally change healthcare. It is going to be your standard Obama-esque, or maybe even before that, right? Like, it's more like your standard, politician that's not going to really do anything other than make things that currently work in the system work as much as they're able to. I think that's a problem because I want things to be better. I want positive, progressive change on major issues. I want major positive, progressive change. I don't want to just fix the ACA and open enrollments early, so that more people can sign up and then give more subsidies for COBRA. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that's very incredibly wasteful and ineffective in our current health crisis. I think that we need to go to a single payer system, Medicare for all, or at least, have Joe Biden honor his commitment to, giving us a public option. I mean, it's something, right? That would be, by the way, a fundamental change in the system. And I don't see Joe Biden really, kind of sticking to that. Again, he's been in office for 10 days, but still, the first things first, COVID crisis, et cetera, and all these executive orders. But still, we do have, and by we, I mean the Democrats, do have the ability to do budget reconciliation and a lot of these things. And for the stuff that he doesn't need Congress to do, like canceling student loan debt, but the stroke of the pen, he could do that today. He could do that tomorrow. He could do that next week. He could have done that in the past week, but he doesn't because he's not fundamental change. And to kind of tie everything back together, I don't really see how that to Republicans who suffer from the same, I think Republican voters who suffer from the same issues that a lot of us do, COVID-19, job losses, a lack of income, people haven't gotten a raise and everything like that. They're suffering from the same issues, and they would be helped by the same kind of policies, and yet they saw Joe Biden as, again, this because of the media, the radical socialist left, whatever, when really he's just doing the non-fundamental change in the system, and so of course Donald Trump has proven himself to be also of the system. Just, increasing the inequalities and giving more money to the extremely wealthy. And so, again, no real big change there. No real reason to have voted for Donald Trump anyway, unless, you were believing that he is, that Biden is the devil incarnate, and that he eats babies and drinks the blood of the innocent in order to stay youthful or something like this. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, I went too far along on that. So
with them, Tiffany.
Let's continue.
Yeah, so I think it's just really important that we have very honest conversations about where we are as a country. And quite frankly, Trump never hid his misogyny. He never hid his racism. He never hid his xenophobia. So it's always interesting to me when there's this coalition of people who try to sanitize folks such as yourself and present them as though, we forgive you.
Are you trying to sanitize
so that was the intention of the question. I am certainly not trying to sanitize you. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to figure out why. Sure, I just want to give you the opportunity because you did seem like you were radicalized. It wasn't a secret about who he was. But I do want to turn to you, Nathan, because I think that you can offer my whole point.
Just answer the question. Are you trying to
when you get a show, invite me on and I'll happily come answer your questions. But I want to talk about these actual races because
I don't know. You know what? I thought that was actually kind of fun. That was fun. Scaramucci, not thrilled. In fact, if you're to ask him, about it, he's just.
I have not loved this conversation.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.